Hi there everyone, Andrew Roberts here, and we're really lucky to be interviewing one of Australia's most prominent business owners and entrepreneurs. His name's Creel-Price. Now Creel's been in business his entire life. At 25, he co-founded a company called Blueprint Management Group. He started with $5,000 and he built it up and sold it for over $100 million. And I've been very lucky to become friends with Creel. I remember being over at his place in Sydney one day, watching him write out a check to send off to the tax man in excess of $10 million. It was an extraordinary experience for me. But I brought Creel along and I wanted to interview Creel for you to talk about this concept of making decisions and how much of an impact it has on our career, our businesses, but also in terms of our lives. Because Creel will point out that the ability to make fast decisions enormously has an impact on our ability to experience further happiness. So let's jump to the interview. I'm sure you'll get an immense amount out of today. See you soon. Hi Creel, welcome. Firstly, thank you very much for attending this interview, and really excited to have you on board here today, as I said in my introduction. And I think you're currently, where are you currently based, Creel? You're up in the northern beaches of sunny Sydney. Is that where you're currently sitting?
God's country, mate. Yes, I am exactly that, up in the northern beaches. It's a beautiful sunny day today.
Fantastic. Well, Creel, today's topic, we're really zeroing in on decision making. And I'm really hoping that our listeners can get their head around not just the benefits of making fast decisions, but also how they can start practicing it. So once they understand the why behind it, and I've got a series of questions that I'll take you through, but particularly around understanding the why and then the how on decision making. But I want to firstly take a step back and just start off in your career when you came to learn about decision making, and when you first came to establish that the ability to make fast decisions has an enormous effect on your life. I mean, where did this all start for you, Creel?
Well, I guess I've always been someone that probably in some ways made decisions too fast, and then you need to change your mind, that sort of thing. But what probably really helped, two things really helped massively in our business was first of all working with a coach. Our coach worked with both Trevor, my business partner, and myself, and she was really awesome at trying to find out what the big decisions we were trying to make, and then work through a process so we made the right decision. And also, we always were pretty successful at using a board of advice. And really, a board of advice in a small to medium enterprise is not about governance or compliance. They're actually about how do they help the owners of the business make decisions. So I think it came from really that point.
Okay, so obviously using some mentors, some coaches, a board of advice. So this whole concept that you taught me, the ability to make fast decisions without the angst. And firstly, how do people know when they've made a right decision? I mean, and also on top of that, what are some of the benefits of?
Well, I think the first thing is to realise is there isn't really always a right decision. I think sometimes entrepreneurs, they really get caught in the headlights and think, oh my God, I need to make a decision that's 100% right all the time, and that's not the case at all. Your job as an entrepreneur is not to make right decisions all the time, is to play. It's a numbers game. Yeah. Sometimes you'll get them right, sometimes you'll get them wrong, sometimes you'll get them massively wrong, but it's what you learn from them. But it's better than lots of indecision. I think that's what really kills entrepreneurs, and particularly new entrepreneurs, is they really hesitate, and that's what slows their business down.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the major, medium, minor decisions shortly, because that was profound when you taught me about that. But Creel, what are some of the benefits from you found in making the faster decisions? Why is it such an important area to train yourself in?
Well, I think to start off with, if you understand that entrepreneurship is decisionship, so if you start from that point of view, all of a sudden you can realise that your job is just to make decisions for better or for worse. Once you start to do that, you say, okay, well, my job now is to get better and better at making more decisions, but also how do I play the game of business? And the game of business is just making decisions. So you can actually start to, I think one of the biggest benefits is you can start to enjoy the game of business a lot more, because you realise, hang on, I'm just here to make decisions for better or worse, and I'll play the game. Also, I think it takes away the angst as well, because you realise that, look, a lot of the best entrepreneurs have made some really hopeless decisions in the past, and that's just part of it. So you just dust yourself off and you move forward.
I mean, Creel, I would love to hear the story from your angle, the decision that you made when you had 3 companies. I think it might have been 3 or 4. And you had I think it was someone on your board at the time, mentioned to you what 2 companies are you going to close down? And obviously a big decision, but can you just share a little bit about that story? Because that's obviously a great example of a decision that you had to make. And at the time, not sure about the outcomes, but clearly a great decision. But I remember that story so vividly from when you first taught it to me.
Sure. Well, decisionship actually is not just about making the decision. Part of the big part about being a successful decision maker is actually defining the question or statement that you need answered.
Yeah.
And this board member that we had, Dick Shaw, he was awesome at trying to digest the problem or issue or opportunity into a question. So he didn't give us the answer. He asked us to have the answer. So what he said to us, he said, guys, business is going pretty well. You've got 4 businesses. But you guys need to work out which 2 out of these 4 businesses you're going to stop focusing on.
Yeah.
And we sort of looked at him aghast, saying, what do you mean? These 4 businesses are really important. They're all making money. They're all part of the story. And he goes, you'll never be successful if you spread yourself so thin. So which 2 out of the 4 are you going to either sell or close down so you can focus on the ones you really want to do? Yeah. He didn't prescribe which businesses that we should focus on. Yeah. So Trevor and I sort of we're a bit taken aback, but then he had a lot more grey hair than we did, so we took him seriously and we sat down and interestingly enough, we had at the time we had a marketing business, a call centre business, a recruitment business, and a training business, and we decided to close down our recruitment and training businesses, which was actually at the time was the biggest part of our business. We didn't have time to go out and sell it because it really, to do a proper sale takes 12 months, and you've got to really start to tail up the business. So we made the decision to say, look, let's bet on these other 2 businesses, and it was probably one of the best decisions we ever made. And I think testament to how important the question is rather than the decision, what Dick helped us frame up.
And I remember, Creel, at the time it was around about it was a multi-million-dollar company, wasn't it? And employed 50-odd staff members. And you made the decision to actually let that company go, to put your energy into the blue ocean strategy, as you refer to it, which is the company that you had the most confidence and belief in. And I mean, how did you come to that decision point to actually go with your gut there?
Well, part of it was our passion. We sat down and said, who do we want to be in business? Do we want to be a recruitment and training business? And we didn't. Right. We got into it because none of the other businesses in our sector offered recruitment and training in the type of people that we wanted. So we got into it because we had to, and it just was so successful that it took us by surprise. But we really didn't have a passion for that market, but we had a passion for other businesses, and we could see a massive future, even though we tried for these businesses to be successful, but probably we weren't focusing enough. So as soon as we, within 3 months of making this decision, we knew it was right, and our business really took off in a massive way from there.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some big things that have come out of this, and number one, making a decision to stop doing something can sometimes be more important than a decision to start doing something. And I'm going to talk about focus very shortly, and the decision to your magnifying glass concept, which I want to get into very shortly. But before I do, it really helped me, Creel, when you distinguish between the major, medium, and minor decisions. Just knowing that there are big life-changing decisions in the mid ones and the minor. I mean, can you just share for the listeners a little bit more about those 3 types of decisions, and from your perspective, what percentage we need to get right in each of those, or to aim for?
Well, I think, yeah. Sure. Well, I think it starts off. I've been probably been about 5 years now. I've been training entrepreneurs, and some of them really get caught up in spending a lot of time and a lot of anxiousness around decisions, which really you could call minor decisions. It's the colour of their new brochure that's coming out, or a little tweak to their logo, or something really stupid like that. And you think, wow, why are you losing sleep over that when there's much bigger decisions to do? So minor decisions, I'd say, if you get them right 25% of the time, that's okay. Yeah. And that's the more the better. But if you say, okay, it's a minor decision, as long as it's right, 25% of the time, I'm okay. Yeah. When you move up to sort of the medium type of decisions, you think, okay, well, really, we need to get those right at least 50% of the time. Yeah. A medium decision, maybe that would be hiring a new receptionist or an assistant, or launching a new product. But then there's the mega decisions, and you really want to get them right about 75% of the time. An example of a mega decision maybe is to bring on a business partner, or to accept a funding offer, or to expand into a different state. You know, they're the really mega decisions, and ultimately they're the things that are going to make a difference to the success or not of your business.
Yeah.
And you know, get them right 3/4 of the time, and you're going to build a pretty successful business.
Oh, I mean, it's been profound for me, Creel, learning about this and increasing my, particularly on the, as you said, the minor decisions, but also increasing my speed at making medium decisions, because they aren't so much life-changing. And I found you just can achieve at such a high level following this. And the thing that really, really helped me as well on my journey was this brick theory that you introduced me through to, which I'll get you to explain shortly. But for me, the bricks being built up as opposed to my lack of decision making. And can you just talk to people about brick theory and just to give them an explanation as to how many entrepreneurs or people just even working for corporates can get trapped by brick theory?
Yeah, well, it's my belief that to be a good decision maker, you've got to have a certain number of mind units free. Like you've seen those times, particularly entrepreneurs, more than nearly any other profession. You get these bricks that stack up either side of you. You know, you think about, you know, this client's got a major problem, or this staff member, I've really got to remember to do their performance appraisal, and this thing at home that's going on, and you know, I need to pay my tax, and you know, all these things add up, which really amount to just a whole lot of bricks. So it's my belief that everyone gets 100% of their mine units free, but the bricks start to take percentages down. So if you get over 75% of your mine units, say, being used, that means that you've only got 25% free to actually make some decisions. And really, after you get above that level, you're starting to get close to what you might term hitting the wall. You might have heard that expression in the past, that you really can't function properly. I remember we were pretty, in the early stages of business, we were pretty busy, and I had I worked 112 hours in one 7-day period, right? So if you actually do the maths on that, there's not many times that I wasn't at work.
Yeah.
The week after, I got to a stage where I had so many bricks and so much fatigue that I couldn't even answer the simplest question. When my receptionist would say, you know, would you like a cup of tea? I'd look at her for about 30 seconds before I'd say, yeah, and she'd go, you know, how do you like it? And I'd go, oh, you know, and that's what decision making is like when you don't have these bricks. So the job of an entrepreneur is to say, let's start to look at some of those bricks to take them off. And particularly, I'm a big fan of, you know, Stephen Covey in his awesome work talks about making sure that you focus on the urgent and important decisions. I'm a big believer in, before you get to urgent and important, let's get rid of the low-hanging bricks.
Yeah.
Okay. So that thing that takes, because sometimes really minor bricks take up a huge amount of time on your mind.
Yeah.
Right. So, for instance, if your wife rang you up and said, "Look, you need to make sure that you get some milk on the way home," that's a really minor brick. But that could be just, oh, you know, I can't forget to do that. Can't forget to do that. It takes up a lot of mind units. Go out, buy the milk, stick it in the fridge, and then that's gone. Yeah. Or it might be something like, you know, there's that one client that you know is going to really be annoying, but you need to give them a call to tell them some bad news. That weighs on your mind. Pick up the phone and you make that phone call. It's surprising how much of a big brick that took up, that you can start to focus on then the important and urgent bricks, and you'll be a lot better at it.
Clear the bricks first. I mean, you use the analogy, before walking up a mountain, you're going to have a backpack full of, if you've got a backpack full of rocks, you're smarter letting the bricks out before tackling the mountain. And I mean, Creel, just to let people know what I've learned from this is, anytime I'm going into a place of, exactly like you said with the tea, where I'm making poor decisions, I stop and realize, you know what, I'm carrying too many bricks. And you helped me realize you just got to stop, get them out onto paper, and as you said, work through them, and it's okay clearing the little ones just to get that headspace back.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things with brick theory, just doing that. Like, everyone has bricks. It's just about, but as soon as you get them down on paper, even before you actually do anything with them, you feel so much lighter because you put them down somewhere else, and you think, okay, well, I can't do anything about this one. Let's defer that decision. Or here's another thing that it's really not my responsibility. So you might delegate that one, and then say, okay, here's the ones that I need to concentrate on. So just doing that simple task, it's amazing how much better you feel.
Oh, look, it is incredible, and even when I'm working with business clients, and I can tell if they're experiencing bricks because they're fuzzy head. And it's almost like, Krill, the business starts taking control of them as opposed to them in control. And for me, when you identify the bricks and even grade them, work out how long they're going to take, and in some cases give yourself permission to have a day or two just to remove them, I find that they become so much more focused, and then they also start attracting opportunities again and good things start happening. It's fascinating. Now, I want to talk about the decision you made to let go of the two companies, and obviously the decision to focus in on two, and particularly this word focus. And Creel, I mean, it changed my life again when you taught me this magnifying glass theory. And I'd love for you just to educate the listeners on magnifying glass theory and the importance of it when it comes to making decisions, but also when it comes to success in business and life.
Yeah, I'm not sure magnifying glass principle, I've called it that, but it's an analogy that's used quite a bit. And you might have heard that story, the little kid sitting in the playground at school, and he's got 3 bits of paper and he's got a magnifying glass and he's trying to set them on fire, holding it up next to the sun. And if he keeps moving them between the 3 bits of paper, he doesn't set any of them on fire. But if he holds the magnifying glass in front of one for long enough, it catches fire, then he can move on to the next one. And that's really what magnifying glass principle is about. And as an entrepreneur, I talk about this thing called the entrepreneur's curse. That this habit that we have as entrepreneurs to lose focus all the time, that there's always something bigger and better that we want to focus on. Well, unfortunately, that's not a business success strategy. You've really got to focus on one thing for long enough for it to set on fire before you move on to the next thing. And I think that's a pretty important business lesson that we don't want to hear, but it's pretty true nonetheless.
I mean, and how did you keep yourself focused? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. As entrepreneurs, we're constantly seeing new opportunities and new things. And how do you make the decision to keep your energy on that one task at hand, Krill? Obviously, you grew your company enormously in that short space of time, which would have been incredible focus and energy, and probably saying no to a lot of things and opportunities coming in. How did you discipline yourself to make decisions around keeping that focus?
Well, I think maybe there was a little bit of self-discipline there, but I would probably attribute most of it to having a coach and having a board of advice. They were pretty great at reinforcing that message, saying, it sounds like an awesome opportunity, but that's not what we said that we were going to do this year. So maybe let's park that until another time. And also, the more staff you get, the more you realise that they don't want to be changing direction all the time as well. So I think it's sort of a little bit like a snowball gathers a bit of momentum. And you realise that, okay, it'd be crippling to completely change direction too much. I'd attribute more to the discipline of others rather than my own self-discipline.
I mean, Krill, how much of your decision making is based on intuition? Well,
as I start to train decisionship and entrepreneurship, people think, well, aren't you taking the magic out of business? Because the greatest entrepreneurs make a lot of instinctive decisions, as you're saying, using gut feel. And I say to that, I say, in order to be able to be good at making gut feel instinctive decisions, you have to have some experience under your belt. So you need to start to practice the art of decisionship. Well, you can't practice it unless you know the process that you need to go through. And then once you've done it enough, like all habits, take, I think, 26 times you've got to do something before it becomes a habit, then make it instinctive. But really, you've got to put the hard yards in first to become a great decision maker before you can then start to just rely on your gut feel. So it's a nerve, if you like.
So what are some of the tools that business owners can, and well, just anyone listening to this, because we get people coming into this that are interested in being in business as well. What sort of things can we do to practice our ability to make faster decisions without the angst?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is start to lose the corporate mentality of doing business cases. I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they come out of corporate, they start their business, they think, I need to make a decision around this, it's pretty big. Let's put a business case together, and they spend weeks putting this amazing document together when really they're the person that's putting it together, but also they're the decision maker. So it just doesn't make sense. So there's got to be an easier way. And what I guess my methodology to make decisions is to split it into a pretty simple process, which is how to defining the question that we talked about before. It's then assessing it using your foresight, insight, and hindsight, and finally it's then deciding to decide. Because a lot of people get to the edge of the cliff and don't jump off. They need to actually make a decision with no holds barred. You don't want to have too much pre-decision angst or post-decision angst. Pre-decision angst is where you think, oh my God, am I making the right decision, or maybe I'll wait another week. That doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
Or secondly, they have this post-decision angst. They make the decision and they think, oh, maybe I made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Well, you need to commit to it. I think that's a real problem that entrepreneurs have. They don't commit to doing the very next thing that they need to do to make sure the decision gets implemented. For me, that's usually sharing it with someone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've just really learnt this, but also making a decision and committing to the decision, and once you've made it, as you said, if you make it being comfortable, if it's a wrong decision, it will soon reveal itself, and you make a new decision to get back on course.
Sure. Well, that's sometimes fast bad decisions are pretty good.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you make a fast bad decision, as long as you find out pretty quickly that it's a bad decision, well, you change to a new strategy, and you keep moving on.
Yeah.
The worst decisions, I think, is that indecision, when you get stuck for too long, and then all of a sudden the market or the opportunity passes you by anyway.
Oh, I mean, Creel, I remember one of the things that you taught me, which I'll pass on, was even if you're going out and buying a lunch off a menu at a restaurant, many people will order something and then and ah about their decision, and then they see their friends get something and oh, I wish I got that. And you said, next time you go, simply pick the first thing you see and order it. And then don't whinge about making the decision, and don't compare your food to the person beside you, because you've made your decision, you can't undo it. And I've just found even practicing making decisions on particularly the small things, the minor decisions, Creel, starts to substantially increase your ability to make the major decisions.
Definitely.
Yeah, and is there anything else like that people can learn to practice on when it comes to making decisions? Because I think it is trained. I think you can start to become a better decision maker through practicing it.
Oh, practicing it, definitely. It's like you go to the bookstore, well, rather than spending 2 hours trying to find the right book, the first book that jumps out at you is probably the right one. So one of the things, actually doing the research for my book on decisionship, I stumbled across a theory developed in 1940, I think it was. I'm not very good at I've referenced it in the book. I can't remember the chap's name, but he talked about the difference between a maximizer and an optimizer.
Yeah.
And a maximizer is someone that is always searching for the absolute best outcome. Right? And they keep searching and searching and searching for the best outcome, which sounds like a pretty successful theory until you find out about an optimizer. An optimizer has a criteria. And as soon as they find a solution that meets that criteria, that's a decision. And so I put this into practice recently when I was over in Europe last year, and I needed to hire a yacht. So I sailed around the coast of Italy for 3 weeks on this yacht, and I had a certain budget and that sort of stuff. But I love boats so much. I spent probably, I don't know, about 3 weeks researching all the possible boats I could hire on the Amalfi Coast, and it was a very maximizer way of looking at it. And I ended up, deciding on this, 54-foot yacht. And I thought, that's a pretty interesting way of deciding. And then I needed to hire a villa for a month in France. So I used the optimizer strategy, where I said, okay, it needs to be 4 bedrooms, it needs to be in a quaint village, and it needs to be this price. I searched for about 10 minutes. I found the villa and I booked it, right? So, and it was fascinating because I'm more of a maximizer naturally than an optimizer. Right. But anyway, I went over and did my European trip, and what happens with a maximizer is they think they've found the best, the optimizer rather, they think they've found the best thing because they haven't looked at all of the other ones. So I got to this villa in France, and it was just an amazing, in this cute little village, and we had the most awesome time, no regrets, because there was nothing that I'd seen at that point which was any better, right? On the boat side of things was a different, because I was a maximizer, the boat I ended up hiring was a little bit slower than one of the other ones I'd seen. It was a bit smaller. I thought, gee, maybe I should have got that other, the Swedish boat rather than the French boat. And then, we had some people on board, and I thought, it would have been better to have that other boat because there was 2 helms rather than 1 helm, and we could have worked, and because I'd done so much searching, there's a lot of regrets because I was maximising in my decision making. And really taught me an amazing lesson for business is come up with the criteria. As soon as something meets the criteria, make a decision.
And it boils back to happiness, not just being able to be more successful in business. Because I found making fast decisions, Creel, is very linked with your ability to be content and happy as well. And you're exactly right there. The less options, maybe the more satisfied we can become. I really like that example.
Yeah, well, interesting enough, part of this theory that I was reading wasn't based around business at all. It was based around happiness. Yeah. They were trying to determine, does being an optimizer make you happier than being a maximizer? And they proved fundamentally that it does. So those people that do make those fast decisions, they're optimizers, are a lot happier. So I think that you're right, that it's a success strategy for life, not just business.
Oh, Creel, amazing. I mean, it's funny because I had a opportunity presented to me early this week, and it comes in and you get all excited about it. And I remember a similar story but slightly different. So the opportunity came in, I'm all excited about it, then start getting the intuition that maybe it's not the right thing to say yes to because it feels like it's starting to overwhelm me, just too many things on the go, too many projects. And I remember sitting down this morning and thinking as well, you know what, I'm going to ring X, Y, and Z person and run it past them. But the crazy thing is, if I had the gun to my head and had to make a decision now, the decision would be no. Because I'm almost looking for reasons for them to say no. But it's interesting as well, by putting myself through that whole ringing people, I'm also wasting their time to some degrees, but also making it harder for myself to accept the decision. Whereas if I just make it, which I have since, by the way, I've made the decision no, and it feels good making that decision. But I looked at it and I thought, I could have expanded this decision out for 2 or 3 weeks. Indecisive with it rather than just going with it and being okay with it. It's a slightly different example, but very linked with the fact that I've made it actually relieves pressure and angst.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think faster decisions are. You don't want to make them too fast, but as you're saying, if you can say no pretty quickly, it's a really good result.
Yeah.
And even sometimes one of the best strategies is deciding not to decide yet. You're saying, okay, you know what, I'm not going to know until Christmas, so I'm going to take it off my do list, and at Christmas I'm going to relook at it again. So it's just like parking a decision, like deliberately parking, rather than just saying, I'll get around to it later. You specifically say when you're going to get around to it.
Yeah, so in this case I might say, look, I can't do it this year, but let's chat again in January. Maybe
That's right.
Yeah, I like it. So, Creel, we're going to bring up an image of your book on the screen here, and they can get it from most bookshops, Borders.
Sure.
Yeah, and on the
Borders doesn't exist anymore, I don't think, Robbo.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you can get it from
it's gone.
And
we've got a link below which people can order it at. Creel, if anyone else is interested, I mean, in getting in contact with you in some way or another, or is there something we can, your link on decisionship, do you want to just share a little bit more about what you're up to at the moment with decisionship and how people can maybe reach you?
Yeah, sure. Well, we're trying to build a worldwide community of entrepreneurs that are helping each other make decisions. So we're building what we call a decision bank of some of the best decisions that people have made, or the best advice that come from the bad decisions that they've made as well. So we'd love to have more people in that community. So you can find out about that at www.decisionship.com, or through our training programs, accelerateglobal.com. We offer quite a few online programs where entrepreneurs can train themselves in decisionship.
Yeah, we'll put those links immediately below this video. So go below and click through to those, and obviously read the book. I haven't read your book yet, Creel. I've got to read it, and but I will point out, as I mentioned in my introduction, that the information that you've taught me around this, just decisionship being one little area of it, but is just enormous. And I wanted to do this special topic, just zeroing in. So I really appreciate your time. An enormous value. I've taken a whole bunch of more notes as well as we've gone through this. So thank you very much, Creel, for being involved for this today.
That's a pleasure, Robbo. Well, you've been instrumental actually in framing some of the theory around decisionship. So thanks a lot for that journey over the last really 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it has been. I got involved 5 years ago. So you're welcome. All right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Creel.
Thanks, Steve.
See you. Bye.